Good morning. Good morning, Facebook family and friends. This is Saturday morning with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson, and today is October the 5th. Yes, October the 5th. Today we're changing our topic a little bit. First and foremost, before we even get started, I want to say thank you to all of you who take the time out of your day to join us here. Thank you so much for those of you who will be joining as we go live. To you that will see this video later, to those that watch it via YouTube, I really, really appreciate you. I want to send a shout out to Mike Zersky. Mike, I thank you for always being there. I see your name pop up and it takes me back to the good old days. I really appreciate you and all of you who take the time out of your day to go live with us and to hear what I'm talking about on these Saturday mornings. Today, October the 5th, we're going to talk about how we as trauma survivors have a desire to help other people. And we're going to talk a little bit about using our trauma to help other people. We're going to talk about platitudes, and we're going to talk about how do we enable versus how do we support them versus enabling them. So we're going to talk about those three things. We may not get through all of it today because there's quite a bit of, especially about the enabling and supporting. We want to make sure that we're saying enough of it to give you the information you need, but without overwhelming you in the same day. I also want to remind you that on this Tuesday at 11 a.m. that I will be presenting at our Lewis University at 11 a.m. The class is Introduction to Correction, and I will be speaking to their class this Saturday at 11. So I will post that link and the Zoom link in this in here a little bit later on this morning. Just wanted to say that right starting out. Okay, thank you so much for joining. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Last week we finished. We talked some more about being authentic. We talked about losing friends after becoming authentic, and we say that some of the reasons that why we lose friends, and I don't think it's just authenticity. I think it happens all the time. The reason we lose friends sometimes because, especially after becoming authentic though, is because the expectations of who we are and what we do changes. Now our actions, we're changing. Our actions are now aligning with our words. We're more focused on our values, and not we're not so much swayed anymore by external forces. And another reason sometimes people are uncomfortable with change. You're gonna lose. You may lose those people who do not align with the new version of what you're presenting now. And there's a fear of judgment. There's always while you experience fear of judgment, criticism, and losing connections. It's important to understand that those judging you also have the fear of losing connection. So we're fearing losing connection, but they are too because they're seeing something they're not used to seeing in us. So there's a fear there for them as well. We just remember when it comes down to fear, that the fear. Remember that fear is false evidence appearing real. So what do we do when it comes to fear? And I applying this in my life definitely with everything, especially my fear of flying and other things that I don't like. Detach. Recognize that fear is an emotion. It's not you. Recognize that. And then disassociate yourself from the fear. Become the observer. Look at the thoughts, your emotions. Look at yourself. Look at your thoughts that you have when this fear comes, the emotions that you have, the behavior that come up when this fear arises. Take a look at those. Pay attention to those things. And then dispower yourself from, disempower them. It's not your truth. Fear is not your truth. Ask yourself in those moments, who am I being when I surrender myself to this fear? And is this my truth? If it's not your truth, then it's going to help us to not to be fearful. It'll help us to get to a point where we are not fearful, especially in losing relationships or whatever the reason is. And then we also talked about how to introduce ourselves with purpose. We want to introduce ourselves, our authentic self. Wish we had started doing this rather before we knew, way before now as we began to introduce ourselves with people from our past and our history. But we start today. We start today. Anything that we have not done in the past, we start today. Your authentic self is what the part of you that comes natural, being self, being the self that takes no effort. I gotta pop up. Being the self that takes no effort, no extra effort. This is being it's conceptualized like as feeling connected to the real you. So when you introduce yourself, you're introducing a part of you that's just effortless. And sometimes we introduce ourselves even without words. People are watching, people see us. So it becomes more than just saying what your job is, your education, what certifications you may have or what hobbies you have. Instead, it's telling a story about yourself. It's not listing, having a list of facts of what you do or who you are that way, but it's more telling people about you personally. And so instead of starting with the facts about yourself, briefly but vividly describe how you got to be in front of this person. Why are you there? Why are you there? Start with the thing that may be important to that other person. You might describe how you came to do what you do, or how you came to care about what you care about. Tell people what you believe in. When you do this, when you introduce yourself in authenticity, when you do this, you activate empathy, and it helps that other person to see themselves in your story, in your life. It helps them to really see you as a person, not just a job. Because I know that a lot of times we have felt that that's what makes us important, but we come to a place of authenticity. We know that we are important just the way we are. We were born important. We don't have to be around certain people to feel important. We don't have to do and say certain things to put people down to feel important. We are already fearfully, we are wonderfully made. We are important. We are the best of the best. We got to know that in and of ourselves. That's why I say it so much. It is so important to know that you are already awesome. It doesn't matter if you're not like anybody else in the world. You are already awesome. So when we tell your story, tell them who you are. It's not about what the things that you do, who you are, what you care about. And that way, when you meet people, Jim loves music. I don't have to. He didn't have to say so. I know he loves music, and I love music. Sharing that fact about him, and then it made me want to be around him because we like the same thing. Now we do the same thing. Now we work at the same job, but we like the same thing. We don't often tell people enough about ourselves to have these real relationships with them. They don't know us. So we want to make sure when we introduce ourselves that we introduce our authentic self. The person that comes without anything. They know I like coffee. I like a good breakfast. They know I like to eat. We learn things about each other just by being around each other and by introducing, just being our true self, that part of us that doesn't take effort to be. When we do that, people learn the important things about us. Okay, and then we talked also about we talked about finding your authentic purpose. We want people to know how to find your purpose in life. Everyone should know how to find your purpose. Everyone should know what your purpose are. Don't go around feeling like you don't know your purpose. You don't have a purpose. You do have a purpose. You have a purpose in life. And we want you to have it. We want you to find that purpose. We want you to enjoy your life. We're supposed to enjoy our lives. We're not, for the Christian people, we're not living now just to live again. That's a lie. We're living to live right now and again. We can have life right now. It's just that we have heard so many things about the do's and don'ts instead of what we should have been hearing about until now. People don't, we live it right now to live right now. I'm going to enjoy my house and my life right now. Right now. Okay, so to find your passion, to find your purpose, rather. First of all, we think about our passion, what you love doing. I gave you a couple of quotes that I really like. Frederick Birchner, his name is Frederick Birchner, and he said, "Purpose is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deepest hunger meet." So look for your passion. What are you passionate about? What do you enjoy doing? What do you love doing? Go further than just enjoy. What is it that you love doing? And then look for your talents. Your talents are important too. What's his name? Pablo Picasso said, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is you're going to give it away. So find your talents, find your gifts, find what you're good at, things you enjoy doing. Think about that. First your passion, what you love doing, then your talents, what you're good at doing. Because whatever you love, certain things are going to be natural for you. It may not be what anybody else do. It doesn't matter if there's nobody else's purpose in life. That stuff does not matter. And then look for how whatever you have as what you enjoy doing and what you're good at, how it contributes. You always want to say, like he said, when you find it, you want to give it away. How does it contribute to the world? How does it contribute to the family? How does it contribute to the neighborhood? We want to do things that make an impact in other people's lives. So your contribution, what do you see in the community or in the world that could be better? Muhammad Ali, remember, said that service to others is the rent we pay for our room here on earth today. So what do you do that can be a benefit, that can be a service, that can put a smile on somebody else's face? Last week I shared with you about my passion, my purpose, and what I do. Last week I thank God that I was able to go and go to an assisted living home, and I took some tea cakes. I made tea cakes and butter cookies, and I took some out there, and I've been doing it for different places, and I had some. I think butter cookies. I don't know. I think it was tea cake. I don't know, but I saw them. I had to send mail, and I went to mail them, and I went to the place to mail them, and a lady there saw me mailing more than one time, and she said to me, "Is this your ministry?" I said, if you want to call it this is what I do. This is who I am. And so she told me, and I went a couple of times. She saw me. The next time she saw me, she said, first she was telling me that, well, you can get grants to do that kind of stuff. I told her I didn't want a grant. I'm not looking for money. That's not this is not what this is about. Because when money gets involved, it changes the dynamics of things. It changes I know. This is what I do. I do it when it's in my heart to do. When it's not in my heart to do, I don't do it. Money makes you do it when you don't want to do it. I don't want that in my life anymore. So I said, no, I don't want money for it. So I went back and she said to me again, she said, next time you come, bring me your information because I see some help for you. And now that's the kind of help I like. Whatever, that's what I like. I don't want anything that I'm charging people. I don't want anything. That's not what I do. That's not who I am. I don't want anybody trying to make me be that. So we look for the purpose themes. When we look for our purpose, there are themes in our purpose. I love to do this. I'm good at this. I want to help do this. I want to help. I want to help at the assisted living, and I can do so by baking tea cakes. Some of the people my age and older didn't even know what a tea cake was, but it was so much fun hearing them have conversations about the tea cakes and how their mom and grandma used to make tea cakes. I'm looking at people my age and older who are talking about their parents and grandparents making tea cake. That was so awesome. That was so wonderful. That was the best day I've had in a long time, and I did so many things that day. I went to so many different places, and it was just absolutely wonderful. That's what I do. That's my purpose. So we look for these purpose things. I love to, I'm good at, I want to help. And the intersection of these three themes is where your authentic purpose lies. The intersection of what you love, what you're good at, and how you want to help. That's where your purpose lies. That's how we find our purpose. So today, a lot of time we're talking about trauma survivors, and we're going to start to talk about helping other people. So as we become empowered, as we learn things, we always want to share what we learn. We give this and we give it away. So we want to share what we learn. We want to help other people. That's one of the main goals in my life. So as a trauma survivor, a lot of trauma survivors rather, may be more sensitive to helping others because of their own experiences. But some of us may not actually be helping people. It's one thing to want to. My pastor, ex-pastor, he passed away. Pastor Walter Crocker said, he said, you can be as sincere as you want, but you can also be sincerely wrong. And so sometimes the things we do that we're trying to help, we need tools. We always need to take time before we start to just do things and take time. That's why we learn about each other. That's why we become authentic. I hate that because we want to make sure that when we are doing something that we have the tools that we need to do it. If not, we can make a mistake. We can hurt. We can mess up. So a lot of time, because we've gone through things, we want to help others not go through what we've gone through. We know what this will do and what it has done in our lives, and so we don't want other people to suffer what we've suffered. And we try to help people. Sometimes we're not actually helping. So there's some things that we can do as trauma survivors. It's good that we want to help and that we can help. We just want to make sure that we have the tools in place to help. So one thing, we have to increase our empathy. So some research suggests that people who have experienced trauma rather may have a higher level of empathy, especially for effective empathy. We truly, when we get to a place, now I mean those of us who are honest and who are able to face our trauma. Not just because you've gone through stuff, but people who are able to deal with the trauma. That's what I'm talking about. Because when you have been able to deal with it, you have effective empathy. But if you're still running from it, if you're still trying to pretend it never happened, if you're still trying to downplay it because of whatever you're feeling inside, then you're not going to be much help to other people. You need to start with ourselves. So some research suggests that people who've experienced trauma may have a higher level of empathy, especially for effective empathy. So this may be because trauma can make people more sensitive to the suffering of others. So I see people. I don't want people to hurt the way I want. I don't want people to feel like they are not worthy. I don't want people to go through any of the things that a lot of the things that I've gone through. And another reason could be the sense of purpose. Sometimes trauma survivors may feel that helping others is a step toward healing or a way to get help. Sometimes they do that because they're trying to get help or because this is a way to help others. This is a little bit of both for me. I seek to help others, but as I learn, I apply so it helps me as well. So for example, someone who experienced childhood abuse may find that they feel best helping other children who've been abused. So we kind of like a kindred spirit. We understand each other. We've gone through some of the same things, and now we kind of feel that there's a kind of mutual understanding. And so we want to help those people. Want to help those people who've gone through what we've gone through. And we sometimes, as trauma survivors, feel that our experiences make them especially suited to help other people because we understand. But we want to be mindful. We want to be mindful, not that because our understanding is not enough, because everybody experiences trauma differently. So I can't take how I felt when I went through my traumatic experience and think that somebody else feels the same way. Not necessarily. So that's why it's important that we have these conversations, and that's why it's important that we study this stuff before we engage in helping anybody else, especially before we engage. We want to respect their boundaries. We want to respect whatever boundaries they have. And we don't share details of anybody's experience without their permission. We want to make sure that what I say is okay with you, that I say that. We want to respect people's boundaries. And we want to be aware of our own limits. We want to keep our boundaries and our limits and make sure to care for ourselves first. Because you know that we talk about vicarious trauma, where we can just hear the trauma of somebody else and it can pull us back into the trauma. So we want to make sure that our boundaries and our limits are respected. If it gets to be too much hearing about what people are going through, if it brings back too many triggers, then we may have to distance ourselves. We may have to take a step back. We want to be supportive. We want to let them know that we're there to help if they want and need us. So say something like, I'm willing to listen if you decide that you want to talk. We don't tell them it's better if you talk about it. We don't say those things. We're gonna talk about those platitudes. We don't say those things. It's better if you talk about it. Maybe it's better for you if you talk about it. Some of this stuff is so deeply ingrained, and sometimes the pain is too hard to talk about it. Let's just say right now that we need to know that we are individuals, and what you experience and who you are is different from who I am and how I experience. We can experience the same thing the same day, and it can affect you one way and affect me another way. It be something that somebody else think is so small, but because of this one incident, we go to a restaurant and somebody stick up the restaurant. Nobody got shot. They just tried to stick up the restaurant. But because of that, I can never drink coffee anymore because I went there for coffee. You can decide that I can never eat chocolate cake anymore because I only went there for a slice of chocolate cake. Your feelings are valid for you. My feelings are valid for me. I can't say, well, girl, you know what? You can eat chocolate cake. That didn't have anything to do with that. We need to get out of that way of talking to people and get out of that way of thinking, even for ourselves, because we have to acknowledge our own feelings as well. Avoid phrases that suggest or minimize what somebody is telling us. That's how we help us. Before we engage, we want to make sure that we avoid those phrases that suggest or minimize what they're feeling. Their trauma is not our trauma. And then we want to focus on affirmation and agency. We want to focus on their need. We want to focus on their want. And the only person who can decide what they need and want is that person that we're talking to. So, if we get to a place where we want to talk to somebody, where we want to help somebody, there are a few things that we can do. Okay, we want to, first of all, we give them time. We have to empty ourselves out in a sense that when we go to talk to somebody about something that's affecting them, that we do not go in with our mind on how we're going to help them. Let them talk at their own pace. It's important not to pressure them. It's important not to rush them. Give them time. Spend our time as we try to help them by focusing on listening. Try to respect what they are choosing to share rather than waiting for our own chance to respond to them. Oh my God, I used to fix everything. It was such a thing for me and a challenge for me and it worked for me to learn to even listen because I'm already in the fixing mode. I'm one of those people, if you say that something is broken, I'm trying to fix it. But you may not want it fixed. Sometimes people need us to listen. So we have to, especially when we're talking to other people and trying to help people, we have to practice our listening skills. Try to respect what they're choosing to share, not what they should be sharing, not what you want them to share. Rather than waiting on your chance to talk, just let them talk and don't pressure, don't rush them. Accept their feelings. Accept whatever they feeling. If they're upset, allow them to be upset. If they're angry, allow them to be angry. You know, one of the biggest things that I used to hate when I used to go to, when I've gone to loved ones' funerals, the people that I care about funerals, and I start to cry. And people come over and pat you in the back. And I know what they mean. I understand that. But I really, I hate that. Because what it says to me is what you say to a little baby when the baby crying. You pat him in the back for them to quiet down, be okay, quiet down. So it's like you're not letting me be upset. You're not letting me feel what I feel. You're trying to cut off my feelings. You got to let people feel what they feel. If you go with somebody to your loved one and they've lost their life, whatever it is, it doesn't matter how you were. It doesn't matter how you think it should be. And the truth is, oftentimes, what we sell is not what we buy. We don't. I remember I was at work and this young lady told me, or one lady told me that they played the song "Another One Bites the Dust" at her mama's funeral. I didn't say anything. I don't know why she said it. I don't know if they really did it and she meant it. I don't know if that was her way of trying to be okay when she wasn't. I don't know. So the best thing to do when you don't know is to be quiet. The best thing you to do when you don't have the answer is not to try to give one. Another thing, when we're trying to help others, we don't blame them or to criticize their reaction to anything. We don't criticize how they feel about it. You might wonder why they didn't do something differently, but they survived however they could at that time. I told you when my uncle stuck me up. I was trying to get him. I had went to his house to pick him up, and he was supposed to come home with me, and we was gonna go see this band that I like called Hip Pocket. And awesome band. I wanted him to hear this band. So he was going to go home with me. We was going to go hear the band. He was going to spend the night, and I was going to take him home the next day. So when I got to his house, and he told me to come in and meet his girlfriend, Margaret, and I realized I had never met her. I always just go outside and blow, and he come out. But this time he wanted me to meet her, and I'm thinking it's the best thing, since she doesn't know me. So when I get to the door, he steps outside the door, and I'm in front of him. So when I walk in the house, he put his arm around my neck and an ice pick to my throat. Now, I'm sitting there and I'm telling him to call my sister. I'm telling him that I just talked to my sister and I told her to tell, that I was going to go get him and I was going to take him to the bank and I was going to give him because it was about money. He was saying that he needed money and he know I had some and I couldn't help and I didn't help him. And I was like, Uncle, Uncle Sonny, he passed away. Now, Uncle Sonny, we can go to the bank and I'm going to give you some money. We don't have to do this. Let's forget about it. And I kept talking. I still want you to go to the concert with me. So he gets in the car with me with his clothes. He's gonna go spend the night. He still had a knife. He thrown the ice pick like over in the corner behind some boxes, but he still had a knife. We go to the bank. I get out the car. He stays in the car. I get out of the car and I go to the bank and I get money for him. Now, somebody said, well, why didn't you say anything when you were in the bank? See, that's what I'm trying to hopefully get you to understand. My reaction to that trauma may be different from yours. And in that moment, I survived the best way that I knew how. I even came back to the car. I gave him the money. And he decided when I gave him the money, he told me he wasn't going to go to my house. He was going to leave. He left the knife on the floor of the car and he got out and left. The biggest thing, I thank God I'm alive, but he got out of the car. When he got out of the car, I drove home. I'm thinking I'm okay. And when I walked in my house, and as soon as I got into my house, that's when I had the panic attack. So don't blame people and criticize their reaction to something because it's different from what you think it should be, a different from how you feel that you would act. You don't know how you would react to that. You may think you do, but when Uncle Sonny had an ice pick to your throat, you don't know how you would react to that. I didn't know how I would react to that. So we don't know. We just want to make sure that we stop thinking that we have all the answers for everybody else. We want to make sure that we have the answers for us. So, and when you go and talk to somebody, you want to use the same words they use. Because people vary in how they prefer to describe their experience. For example, it's their choice whether to talk about being a victim or a survivor. It's up to them. Some people may choose to feel, and some people may feel like I feel like I'm a survivor in that trauma. I was a victim in a story, but I feel that I'm a survivor. So I talk about it in the sense of I'm a survivor. And so let me say it. Don't tell me, oh no, you were a victim. He had no right to do that. That's not what I need from you. And don't dismiss the experience. Don't tell them not to worry about things that they're lucky for getting through it. Don't tell people, oh, don't worry about that. You don't. We want to stop doing that. Allow people. We want to give them learn how to give them encouraging words without saying the wrong thing. And maybe we'll talk about that next week as we go deep into that. But we want to know how to give them encouraging words without saying the wrong thing. So don't tell them, don't worry about it. Or you're lucky for getting through that. This isn't heifer at all to hear. Try to remember that people can't choose what they find traumatic or how they are affected. Try to keep that at the forefront of your mind. That people cannot choose what they find to be traumatic or how they are affected by their trauma. Another thing that's really, really big is only give advice if you're asked to do so. Some might prefer to simply hear that you believe them and that you're there for them. Only give advice if you're asked to give advice. There was a man told me one time, and it was some of the best advice I ever had. He said to me one time, I used to be like, think I told you this before. I used to be like, if somebody asked me something, they could ask me, and I was always trying to find it. If I didn't want to do it, I tried to find a different answer for them, a different way for them to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. And he said, don't do that. He said, just like they found you, they can find the next person. Don't give them that. Don't put other people in. Don't give them that type of advice. So only give advice when they're asked, and let it be about you. Let it be about what you can do, what you know. Let it be your advice, and advice that you would take for yourself. Okay. And we got a couple of comments, and I'm going to see what they are. Good morning. That's our Minister Doris on the line. Said fear is emotional and emotion rather. And my mama Laura Cheer say I like that. I'm ready to listen when you're ready to talk. Not saying to them it's better to talk about it, right? Because everybody is different. Great, it is. Everybody is different. And we thank you for Sharon for coming on. Some people just need to be heard. So, amen. Some people just want to be heard. Not everybody wants your advice. And a lot of time the people, when I look at people that's giving advice, I'm looking at them. So, and allow people to express themselves how they need to express themselves. Some of us might find it easier to express ourselves through writing or creative outlets. Supporting these ways of expression and feeling is just it's just as valid. They don't have to tell you their business. If they choose not to, they don't have to tell you. Let them. It's their trauma. They're the one that's dealing with it. So allow them to do it their way. Just be there as a support system for them. Just be supportive. Then another big thing that I find to be big, and I found research to find that it to be big, is to refrain from using platitudes. Cambridge Dictionary defines platitudes as a remark or a statement that may be true, but is boring and has no meaning. It's been said too many times before. We understand people use platitudes because they want to offer some type of comfort or some type of support, but may not know what to say. So platitudes are kind of easy to remember. So they make them an easy go-to response in awkward or uncomfortable situations. They may also stem from a cultural norm of wanting to provide immediate assurance. We want to reassure people right away. We want to have an answer when people come to us right away. We don't have to have it. And some people use platitudes because they're unsure of how to handle their own discomfort with somebody else's pain. Sometimes that's what it is. So, but we still want to be mindful. While the intention behind using platitudes is usually positive, they often fall short of providing any type of meaningful support. Trauma survivors, especially trauma survivors, the desire to be supported and to be heard, because that's what trauma did. It took away we wasn't heard, we wasn't supported. So when trauma, we feel like we wasn't heard in the trauma, we wasn't supported. So we want to be supported, we want to be heard. And when people use platitudes, they minimize the person's emotions and they minimize their experiences without even trying to do so. And when people do this, this can cause a will not mindful and protecting ourselves. This can cause negative psychological effects like anxiety, depression, isolation, as people can feel their pain is being brushed aside and seen as if it's unimportant. Whatever anyone is feeling, it's important to them. When we rely on using platitudes, we miss the opportunity to connect on a deeper level and offer true support. True empathy, because true empathy involves understanding and sharing the feeling of somebody else. So when we use these platitudes, it's like a brush off. And so we want to be mindful of platitudes. We really want to be mindful. So platitudes, they can be annoying too, because they can be dismissive, they're impersonal, they can be condescending. When you come to somebody and tell them that it'll be all right, like you so okay with it, but they should be too, it can be condescending and it's very much unhelpful. And they can also make people, like I said, feel unheard and unsupported. So platitudes, they minimize, can make people feel worse instead of better. We're trying to say something to try to make them feel better, but they sometimes make people feel worse instead of better. They can fail to acknowledge that that person's specific situation or true feeling, that person, whatever they're going through, whatever it is, how minute it seems to you, it can be very personal and very hurt their feelings. So we don't know that. It's incompassionate. Platitudes can be vague and curtsy, but they don't offer much help, a show and an understanding of what a person is going through. And another thing, they give this false impression of wisdom too. They give the impression that they are timeless and moral lessons that everybody should take. So it's this false impression, like you know how somebody else should do. You know what should do. I think I gave an example when people like you're gonna be okay. Nobody said I wasn't gonna be okay. So like you know so much how I'm gonna be. You don't know. You don't know. So some platitudes that a few of them that I have that I wrote down to talk about. One said, well, time heals all wounds. Time can help people process their feelings, but this statement can dismiss the full healing process. It doesn't acknowledge the immediate pain that somebody may be experiencing, or the fact that some wounds never fully heal. So time heals all wounds. And so instead of saying something like time heals all wounds, why I'm not asking, is there anything I can do to help you right now? Why not just let them know you're there? Why not let them know that I'm here to help you? That's it. We don't have to be so profound in what we say. And sometimes we spend too much time trying to sound good when we're not doing anything. And another one, everything happens for a reason. You know what this phrase suggests that every event has a hidden purpose or outcome that's meant to be. How do you tell that mother whose child just only went to the store and there was a shooting and he died? How do you tell her everything happens for a reason? This may offer some comfort to some people, but it can also invalidate somebody's pain by implying their suffering is necessary or is justified. How do you say it? How do you tell them everything happened for a reason? Let everything in your life, live your life like everything in your life happened for a reason. Live it. Even if you believe that, you have a right to what you believe, but you can't put that off on other people. That's the issue. We oftentimes think that when we're saying something, we're talking to ourselves and not somebody else. These are different people with different ways of feeling, different things in their lives. So acknowledge the feeling instead. Acknowledge their feeling. Show that you care about what they're going through. So instead of saying that everything happened for a reason, why not say to them, "Oh, I can see that you're really upset about this." You acknowledge it. I can see that this really bothers you. Acknowledge it. Allow people time to talk. Because sometimes they'll share with you if you don't push them. It could be worse. That's another one. It could be worse. This implies that a person shouldn't feel as bad as they do because others might be going through some worse. And this can make a person feel guilty about their own feelings. It can even prevent them from fully expressing and processing their their emotions if they listen to you. But be present. Being present and attentive can provide comfort and reassurance. That's what we do. We offer support. So instead of saying it could be worse, simply offer your presence by saying, I'm here no matter what. I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you want this. I'm here to do whatever I can do. And it's not a good idea to offer it if you really don't mean it, because they may call you on it. So if what can I do? If you ain't really, you in bed and laying there, you just picked up that phone and really not ready to do nothing. Don't say what can I do, because they say, you know what, I really would like for you to come go with me today. I gotta go take care of some business. Oh no, make sure that when you say these things that you're real, that you're authentic, that what you're saying is something that you're really willing to do. When we're asking people, when we are talking to people, if we do have to ask questions, let it be open ended to encourage that person to express themselves. People need to, when they have this pain inside of them and they trauma things, whatever it is inside of them, they may want to express it. They may feel they themselves may need to express it. It's not for the other person to decide they need to, but let them decide. And if you ask them if they're saying something and you ask a question, it may help them to fully express what they're trying to do. Just kind of like, let me see it. It's been so many. How do you feel about that? Or just and how you feeling now, or anything. So, any open ended question will sometimes get people to saying more than just yes or no. That's what it is. An open-ended question, but it promotes conversation, so it gets them to open up more. The more comfortable they are, you're not telling them about you. You're not having this. You're not offering no advice. You're just listening. Um, there are times when you pay attention to the conversations you have. If you call your friend and said, I'm going to get me some a sub sandwich today. And before you finish telling them why you were going to get the sub sandwich, they start telling you what they had for dinner, what they getting ready to cook. And we made sub sandwich the other day, and we had Johnny over, and we did that. We don't stop. We don't stop. I'm learning, trying to learn to stop and let people tell me about theirs instead of me having to tell. We don't have to have tit for tat. We're not fighting. That's dad and mom. That's the way they do. They box. We don't box. We don't have to go tit for tat. I don't have to show you that everything you did, I did one better. We don't have to do that. Let our people talk to us. Listen to people. Share your own feelings. When you get ready to share your own feelings, do them carefully. Your feelings are not mine. Do them carefully. Be careful when you want to share your own feelings about something. Don't say to people, I know what you're going through. Tell them I'm sorry that you're going through this, but you don't know what anybody is going through. None of us know what other people are going through. Siblings don't know what the other siblings are going through. So if you don't know what somebody's going through, we don't want to say that. I know what you're going through. No, you don't. Don't tell me how good you were at something because I say that it's something I don't want to do. What I did this. That's you. That's you. I don't know. I want to say again about this one, about sharing this and being careful about sharing your own feelings. I told you that for a long time I hated my father, and I was at my dad's funeral, and my this man came up to me, and he told me, and I really hated my dad. I mean, I'm not phony at all. I did hate him, and the man said to me, he said, I know how you feel. And at that time, I didn't understand the trauma in my life as much as I do now. He said, I know how you feel. And I turned around and I'm like, oh my God. I was so glad that somebody said that. I said, you hated him too? Because I really thought that when he said he knew how I felt, I thought he hated my dad too. I said, you hated him too? And that man looked at me. That wasn't what he meant. That wasn't what he meant. He did not know how I feel. I was glad Dad was gone. He did not know how I felt. And just because you had a father who died and you went to a funeral, or you had a mom who died and you went to a funeral, you don't know how anybody else feels. You don't know. We don't know. And we want to get out of there. We want to be mindful of sharing our own feelings to people. Like they should feel what we feel. They should be like we are. No. Even if our hearts are in the right place, it does not excuse what we say or what we do. Even if our heart in a situation is in the right place, that does not excuse what we say or what we do. We need to be mindful. We need to be mindful. When we say something to somebody, we want to make sure that we have the right thing to say, that we are saying the right things. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna put this in the chat on let me see if I'm doing it right. And you guys are more than welcome to join. I will be at Lewis University on the 8th. That's Tuesday. I'll be at Lewis University, and I will be speaking to freshmen and sophomores, and maybe some juniors, I think. And the topic is Introduction to Correction. So I'll be speaking to them at 11 a.m. Anyone who interested in joining, feel free. That's the Zoom meeting right there. And as I said, I'll be at Lewis University talking to freshmen, sophomores, and some juniors about Introduction to Correction. And if, like, if you can, if you're not doing anything, feel free to listen in. I don't know if it's going to be recorded or what, but I will be there. And I want to also say, as we go forward from this, be mindful. We want to be mindful of what we say. We want to pay attention to other people. Then, see, because one of the things we want to do, our goal is to be supportive to people, but we also don't want to enable people in whatever struggles they may be going through. Sometimes while we're trying to, in our mind, support them, we are enabling. And this kind of gets, change the topic just a little bit. This is more about people who are struggling with whatever they're struggling with, alcohol, people who are struggling, whatever the struggle may be. Even trauma struggles a little bit different because that's mental, but when they have that's a more of a mental struggle. But when people are having struggles with abuse and stuff, sometimes these can be the results of the trauma. So sometimes the results of the trouble of whatever they've gone through can cause them to act a certain way, can cause them to behave a certain way. And one thing we have to know about this, when we try to help people to do anything, we can't help them by dealing with what we see at call it the type of the iceberg. Sometimes what you see as the problem is not the problem. Sometimes what they're showing you, you're seeing a reaction to the problem, but that's not the problem. That's not what's really causing the problem. The only way we can really we have to deal with things at the root, and that means that we need to know what caused it. We need to know how to get there. We need to know what happened. We need to understand that, and then we need to tools, the available tools, to make sure that what we're saying is right. So we're talking about now, like people who are struggling with alcohol, people who are struggling with managing their finances, people who are struggling with drinking, or smoking, or whatever they're struggling with, like that type of struggle. We want to, when we talk, we want to support these people in our loved one, but we don't want to enable them. With enabling behavior can encourage unhealthy habits and behavior, even if it's unknowingly. When we enable people, we're encouraging these unhealthy habits. By, on the other hand, supporting can empower them to get better. See, we cannot make anybody better. We want them to be better. We want them to be okay, but we cannot make them better. When trying to help someone who's struggling, we sometimes feel as though we're doing everything in our power to help them, but it's just not working. I've tried this and I've tried this, and it's just not working. We need to get to a place where we can get us to a place where we find it difficult to find a balance between providing support and giving them space. And I know that don't sound like, but when a person is whatever their struggle is, we still have to give them space. We may even find ourselves struggling with the desire to control their behavior. That doesn't work either. The person we love may begin isolating themselves and withdraw from social contact with us because we're in there. We're not giving them the space they need. We're not giving them the support. We're trying to enable them. We're telling them why they shouldn't do this. We're going at it the wrong way. We want to make sure that we understand. I think we'll be talking about this one. We're going to go into a lot more because when we want to help, we do want to help people. We do want to help our loved ones who are struggling, but we need to know how to do it. I remember this young lady that I wanted some people to help her. I couldn't help her, but I wanted some other people to help her. And they was telling me that it wasn't time, and I did not understand that. I did not understand it. But one thing about it, she came out of it with the situation herself. And that's when he came back and told me, he said, that's why I said it wasn't time. She needed to understand what she's doing wrong. She needed to understand where the mistakes are coming from. And she's the one that has to fix them. The person you love may begin isolating themselves, making it more confusing and challenging on what we can do next. Well, now they got this issue. We don't want them to have it. We're trying to help them in the ways that we think we should, and now they don't want to be around us. Now, what do we do next? How do we help them? How do we help them when they're not even talking to us? How do we help them when they're not coming around us anymore? So boundaries began. First of all, there are boundaries. Boundaries began by recognizing the difference between enabling somebody and supporting somebody. And then we maintaining those balances between enabling and supporting is often the key to helping them. So we have to still, boundaries are so important in every aspect of our life. We have these boundaries. We're here to help, we're here to support, but we're not here to take on your problem. They began by recognizing the difference between am I enabling or am I supporting, and then maintaining them is and maintaining balance between enabling and support is often the key to actually helping those people. It's actually the key. So enabling is enabling behavior ultimately perpetrates the problem by protecting a safeguarding a person against experiencing the full consequences of their action. When we sometimes we call it in support, we're enabling them by keeping them from experiencing the full consequences of their action. And supporting someone enables them to take active steps for themselves. Some enabling behavior is a common coping mechanism. Cause we try to change the unfavorable. We're trying to change the unfavorable situation. We're trying to increase the stability. We're trying to regain control. That's us. When we enable, if I enable someone, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change the situation. I'm trying to gain some kind of control. I got a problem now too. I'm trying to increase stability. From the outside, these type of behaviors may appear to be supported, but enabling behaviors serve to contribute to the and reinforce the problematic behavior. When we start to doing this stuff, trying to make sure we okay in this, we okay, it actually can contribute to the problem. People who engage in enabling behaviors may appear supportive, but enabling behaviors serve to contribute to the problem. And people who engage in these behaviors are aware of this destructiveness of the other person's behavior and try to do what they can to prevent the issue. And then it makes us. Then we began to feel powerless. That's what it makes us feel powerless because we were unable. We were unable to help them. Okay. Enabling may be a part of a larger codependency issue taking place in a relationship. That's why we have to get to the root of all the problem before we try to fix anything. It could be a deeper issue there. This may look like a loved one is over functioning to compensate. While this may seem supported from afar, it actually creates dependency. And I know that was said kind of fast, but we're gonna go back next week. This is what we'll be talking about. This is what we'll be talking about. Enabling can cause a person who we're trying to help to lose their independence, and that doesn't empower them to help themselves. Studies show that becoming a codependent, when we becoming a codependent, is 14 times more likely if the person or loved one don't have corporate resources. If we don't have what we need to help a person that we're trying to help, we can make it 14 times worse. Some examples of when we're enabling our efforts to protect our loved one from experiencing the consequences. We try to do that about, okay, I'm going to pay their bill. I'm going to pay their light bill so their light going to get turned off. Sometimes we need to let the light get turned off. They need to understand what they're doing to themselves. But we're trying to help, and we're not helping in the best way. If we let the light get turned off, they need to know what it's like. But we're doing, I'm so good at it. So good at it. I've been so good at it. I don't want them to feel this way. I don't want them to be hurt. I don't want. Well, they got to do it too. You got to know what it's like too. I don't want to share this one, but there was a situation where some children got taken and went to DCFS, and we had a conversation with some people about it, and they were saying that they were upset that the family members didn't take the children, and the question came about, well, why couldn't the parents keep the kids? You're the parent. You didn't do the right thing about your children. Now you expect the family members to go and take your children. That's enabling. As long as they know that your as long as they know that you're going to take care of them for them, they don't have to do it. Keeping secrets about somebody's alcohol or drug use, making an excuse for their actions, blaming other people for what our loved ones are going through. If so and so hadn't not doing that, we good at that. If so and so had not did that, if this my husband cheating, if all these women had in the world had just not messed with my husband, our marriage would have been good. No, that wasn't the other way. All those women out there, your husband cheated on you. That's not supporting it. That's not supporting. That's not helping anything get better. That's not helping the relationship be better. Trying to gain control of things outside of our control. Avoid confronting a topic surrounding what what the issue is. Those are things that we're going to be talking about next week. I don't want to keep you long because it's been almost an hour, but we're gonna stop here. And next week we're gonna talk about how to support without enabling. We're going to talk about that. There's some way. We're going to talk more about enabling, more about supporting, because all of us, not all of us, a lot of us have loved ones who we want to support. I have a son that's in prison who I want to support, and I want to support him, but I don't want to enable him, and I don't want to be in prison. Because when something happens to those we love, we can get to a place where we're right there with them, and I don't want to be in prison. I want my life to be my life. I love him. I want to support him, but I want to be there for him, but not to a point where I become enabling. Like I had one young man who I was trying to send him money for the books and stuff, and I found out that he was getting money from various places. This young man, another man told me, said, "Don't send him any more money. He's gambling. He in there gambling." I don't want to be an enabler for that. I was trying to make sure that he had something on the book when he already was getting money from other places. So that's what we are today. That's what we'll be talking about next week. I want to thank you. As always, thank you so much for taking time to come on here. I'm looking to the side again just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I want to thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. And again, the Zoom link is out there for October the 8th. We are whole and authentic. We're going to continue to do what we're doing. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue. We know that our traumatic experiences can help other people. We're going to be mindful of those platitudes. We want to make sure that we're not using them. We want to be careful when we say something. We want to say something in love. We want to say something that's useful, something that's helpful to people. Not to just say stuff. Not to tell somebody how we came, what we did. That's not what we do. That's not what we do because it's not helpful to anybody. Maybe it makes you look good, but it doesn't help anybody else. Our affirmations for today, and then you have to say them for you because I changed it. I was saying we, but I changed the words back to I, and you can say them for yourself too. I accept myself for who I am. I am resilient. I deserve love and respect. I am proud of myself and will continue to strive to do well. I am worthy and whole. I can do hard things and make hard decisions. And I am always a safe place for myself. Once again, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us this morning. You all have a very great weekend. I will be back on Friday morning, and I'll be talking about witnessing, and then I'll be back on Saturday morning, and we'll be talking about empowering, supporting rather than, we want to make sure that we're supporting our loved one. So we'll be talking about supporting them rather than enabling them. So we'll be talking about that again on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. You all have a very blessed day. Thank you so much for joining. I will see you on Friday. Have a great day. Goodbye.